It feels like a long 7 months since the Glazers released that statement saying they were looking for strategic alternatives, investment. And here we are in hopefully what should be the last week before we find out who the preferred bidder is between Sheikh Jassim and Jim Ratcliffe. Who will be the new owner of Manchester United? I've been asked so many times constantly who my preferred bidder would be. And I've sat on the fence. What I'm going to do in this video, give me 10 minutes of your time and I will explain to you who I think probably on when everything is pulled together and you had to choose, which one I would choose. That's what I'm going to use this video for, because I keep getting asked constantly. It's not something you can just articulate in a response to a comment on a live stream. Give me 10 minutes of your time and I can use this video now as a marker to explain everything in as much detail as I possibly can. So please give me the opportunity to do that. The one thing I would say to kickstart this, and it's the one thing that every single United fan can agree on, no matter whether you're pro Sheikh Jassim or whether you're pro Jim Ratcliffe. We're all anti-Glazer. We all want them to get the hell out of our club, for them to not have control of our football club anymore. Because whatever comes next, whether it's Sheikh Jassim, whether it's Jim Ratcliffe, as long as it isn't the Glazers in control, then it is better. Now, when it comes to Sheikh Jassim, when it comes to Jim Ratcliffe, I've already done this, and I'll run through this as a sort of basis for my video. I've done the pros and the cons of a Sheikh Jassim bid, and I've done the pros and the cons of a Jim Ratcliffe bid. And I tried to be as completely objective as I possibly can. In this video, I'm going to be a little bit less so. There's more about what means more to me, rather than just the facts that are down there. If you go to the Sheikh Jassim bid, look, you know what the pros are. 100% cash takeover. The Glazers completely gone. Money's there for investment. $1 billion has already been pledged to investment into the community, into the men's team, the women's team, the academy team, the new stadium, a new Carrington. It's all there. It will be a huge undertaking and a huge investment, but you can see what the cons are there. And it's the links to the Qatari state, which have always been the thing that sort of always not dragged me away from the concept of it or being happy about it, but it's always the thing that sort of grounded me. And honestly, what I would say is if you can't understand why, as a Manchester United fan, that the concept of having a Qatari state-linked takeover wouldn't worry you, wouldn't concern you, then I don't know what to say. For the life of me, I don't know what to say. We as United fans have sat here and we've watched what happened when Abramovich came in with his money in the Premier League and how that changed everything. And what happened with City, with Abu Dhabi, and they've just now won the treble. They've now won 4 out of the last 5, and they are so far ahead of us because of all the money that they've invested there. And we're about to witness probably the next 10 years, who's to say that Newcastle won't do the exact same? That sort of money has completely changed football, completely changed the Premier League. And that's probably why I reacted the way I reacted to the stories about Nasser El Khelaifi being an advisor to the Sheikh Jassim bid and the Glazers going direct. That's just the Glazers being dirty snakes and them trying to squeeze more money out of it. Now, he's obviously come out and he's denied any sort of involvement. He said, look, PSG is my club. If anybody wants to come for me for advice, then I will give it to them. What I think will happen if the Sheikh Jassim bid is successful is the Premier League will use this as evidence to double scrutinise Manchester United's potential takeover. Now, you'd be right in saying, well, Sam, where was that same sort of energy with anything that happened previously here? There was some energy with the Newcastle one. That was why it was delayed by so long. But I think it was actually the piracy situation with beIN Sports rather than the actual links there, because the links between the Saudi state and PIF and Newcastle were very obvious. Mohammed bin Salman was the chairman of PIF. Now, Sheikh Jassim has always held, not always held, it's always been said, that's the 9-2 foundation is the separation. I'm still concerned about it, and I always will be. And that will not change if Sheikh Jassim takes over. But with Jim Ratcliffe, you think that I look at Jim Ratcliffe and think, you remember, I keep getting it thrown at me. Sam, I called him the Disney owner because the concept of it. A man born 10 miles from Old Trafford, grew up to become Britain's richest man, comes back to the club. Yeah, on paper, yeah, it does. It's not the case anymore after everything that's happened. Now, you know all the pros and all the cons. you can see how many more cons there are here, I suppose, in that category. And that pretty much, if I was to go back to Sheikh Jassim, it's that Qatari link and all the offsets of it. So it's the state link and the offsets of what that would mean from a cultural perspective. That's what always drives me to argue the pros and the cons about a Qatari bid. When it comes to the Jim Ratcliffe bid, it's far more complicated in terms of there's more than one thing to talk. And maybe it's not as complicated is the wrong word to use there. But I don't like the idea of the debt financing. Now, I'm sure there are financial experts that will tell me about Ineos's revenues and how the fact this is going to be a drop in the ocean for them. And I think they're probably correct. But I don't like it. I've argued so much against the debt and how damaging it is for our club. I'd like it to be gone completely. Now, for a lot of people, the single worst thing about any sort of Ineos or Jim Ratcliffe bid is the idea that he could allow the Glazers to stay on at Manchester United in sort of, I suppose, in an investment capacity rather than control. Because the one thing I would say now, right, there is no way that any billionaire is taking control of Manchester United and allowing the Glazers to retain their control. So that whole dual share structure, everything that's all the complications behind it. But there's no way that they would retain their control. And it's something I mentioned on the live stream this morning. I asked everybody, I said, look, do you know who Lindsell Train are? Do you? They are a US investment firm. And do you know who, I don't know how to pronounce it, Ayers Management? Do you know who they are? They own, collectively, nearly 33% of Manchester United. But when have you ever heard anything being said about Lindsell Train or anything being said about Ayers Management? According to the Times, you know full well about this concept of Ineos and Ratcliffe creating this structure where the Glazers may be able to stay on in some capacity. If you look at it there, the original offer, the Glazers own 69% of Manchester United. The original offer there was to buy 69%, and the Times are now saying that now is understood to be closer to 60%. So there's a possibility, if all hypothetical on your heads here, of it going through, that the Glazers could then just end up being third on that list. No control over anything at Manchester United. Would it sit right with me, the fact that they could earn money off these stocks and shares that would go up in value if that went through? No, it wouldn't. But that wouldn't be the biggest concern I would have over the Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos deal. And again, you might disagree with that. But that's not the biggest concern for me. The biggest concern for me is whether or not Ineos can take us back to where we need to go, given what we know we've got in front of us in Man City and what we've got right behind us in Newcastle. That would be a bigger concern for me, and the structure. And you know what it is, right? All these things down here about this concept of what I want is guarantees about the Glazers not having control at Manchester United anymore. And I can't offer those because I don't know what the structure of this deal would be. Who's to say, I've touched wood all there, who's to say Jim Ratcliffe fell into bad health and all of a sudden in 12 months' time it's somebody else who's leading it and has actually decides to sort of pivot away from any sort of deal that was agreed before, and that the Glazers can somehow get some control back because Ineos feel like it's not actually worked out quite well, and who's better to sell back to than the Glazers? I can't guarantee that wouldn't happen. And that, for me, would be a bigger concern than the idea that they might have some sort of stake right now. I suppose it all ties into each other. And it's the questions I can't answer about getting rid of the Glazers that I don't like. And you might say I'm being a bit of a hypocrite here because there's so much going on upstairs. And it's, struggled's the wrong word. I've said that twice now. Maybe I have struggled with people like questioning my own integrity in what I'm saying. And that's why I wanted to do this video, because I feel like I want to draw a line under it and say, look, you really want my opinion? It's there in 10 minutes. I can't give it to you in a 2-second response on a live stream. But when you take everything into account, from all the pros and the cons of the Sheikh Jassim bid, and all the pros and the cons of the Jim Ratcliffe bid, I think I'm swinging more towards the Qatari side. Does that mean that I'm going to be celebrating, popping champagne? I would be popping champagne because they'll be gone. I would still have massive concerns and questions about the cultural institution of Manchester United. Any sort of potential links to the Qatari state. And those questions would never, ever go away. But I would have so many more questions and concerns about the structure of an Ineos deal, the structure of the Glazers leaving, and it might be the put and call shares that would come in like 2-3 years. And maybe they can be legally, it all goes down into the guarantees of how that, but there's so many more questions around that I can't answer. And that's why I would, in the grand scheme of things right now, I think I'm leaning more towards the Qatari bid than I am the Ineos bid. But you know what it is, and this is what I've struggled with so much, is no matter which way I'm looking at compromise. I'm either looking at compromising on the idea that we might be getting close to a state-linked takeover, and the questions and concerns, and anybody who might call me a hypocrite for then saying that you might support a position where the Glazers could stay on in some sort of capacity, even if it's only just an investment role. On the other hand, I would then be a hypocrite if I didn't stay true to my own concerns about the links with the Qatari state. That's what I mean, that you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. There's compromises no matter which way you look. But I think Gary Neville's comments here on the Glazers really sort of sum up where the United fan base is at this moment in time. Honestly, I think everyone's got to the point whereby what the Glazers do, they erode every little last bit of energy out of everything that they do. The fans have had enough. They want them out. And I think, to be fair, it's sad, really, that it's come to that. But that's exactly how I think everybody feels. They know nothing about Manchester or the northwest of England and the traditions of this football club and the tradition of football in this part. They have not embedded themselves into the local culture. And that's pretty much what the last 7 months, this takeover situation is the perfect embodiment of who the Glazers have been as owners. Could have been straightforward. Could have been quick. Could have been painless. Could have been something that was done for the benefit of the football club. No. It's been done slowly, painfully, drawn out, hung, drawn, and quartered for the benefit of the Glazers. And the Glazers alone. I can't wait for them to be gone. And I will celebrate, no matter who takes over for their exit. I will celebrate about that. But now, as it stands and where I am and everything that has happened and chopped and changed over these last 7 months, I would be more inclined to say that the Qatari takeover of Manchester United, it raises less questions of the actual structure of the takeover and the complications of the finance, but it does have huge cultural and historical questions that I don't think will ever go away, and I don't think would ever not be a problem for me. But that's kind of where I sit at this moment in time, and no doubt there's going to be people that shout at me, they have a go at me. Jeez, you kind of can't win in this situation because there is no perfect new owner. Thanks very much to the Glazers. You let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm sure you will. And we'll talk about it. But I'm just looking forward to the Glazers not being in control of our club anymore. And for us to actually move forward genuinely. With Ten Hag as manager.